So, next film.
So insane.
I think I know what number 4 is going to be.
Yeah, I think we know what they're all going to be.
Yeah.
Number 4, Black Panther.
There we go. Yep.
Now, this is so interesting because people are going nuts about Black Panther's nomination. I'm talking about not just internet psychos, but on common threads I've seen with, like, it seems like sentient, normal people.
With free will and all of that.
Yeah, that, you know, don't live in a basement. They're still saying, like, Black Panther, good enough, but Best Picture nomination, are you crazy? Well, as you can see from our ranking, we both seem to think it's one of the better films.
I mean, by all means, I would still question its inclusion.
Same.
You know, like you say, it's in top 4, so
yeah,
I've got to credit it for that.
So, just a brief introduction. Directed by Ryan Coogler, who started with Fruitvale Station and did Creed. It's written by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole, based on the characters by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Only 2 writers were credited on the Wikipedia page, which seems small for a...
Let's guess that this has been in development for about a decade, and there's probably like 20 ghostwriters on it.
Yes, but the first superhero film to be nominated for Best Picture, I believe.
Was The Dark Knight
nominated? No, it wasn't.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't believe any of the Richard Donner Superman films were for Best Picture either.
No, I think I remember it was a snub for the first one. It didn't.
Yeah. I was careful not to say comic book movie. I'm not sure about that as well, because I know stuff like Persepolis is a comic book movie. I know that wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but I'm sure...
The Road Perdition...
No, not nominated for Best Picture. Well, we'll see. Maybe fact check that.
Don't include these facts if you haven't checked them.
Before we talk about Black Panther, should we briefly discuss the Academy Award for Outstanding Achievement in Popular Film and how fucking stupid it is?
Is it still going ahead?
It's not.
No, it's not.
It was just so funny how they announced
like a pat on the head sort of
and
thing,
then everyone rightfully went, no.
No, fuck off. Yeah.
And then they changed their mind, like, sorry, we're all...
Funny that this didn't happen back when Lord of the Rings: Return of the King was nominated.
Yes,
but, you know, it's history for you.
It's like, no, the solution is maybe don't nominate Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book and Vice because they're not very good. And you might find that some popular films get onto the list. Idiots.
Is that all the discussion we needed?
No. I just said idiots in a conclusive way. Feel free to add to this.
No, there's plenty of other slur words we could use to condemn them, but we'll leave it.
Just another thing I got is, obviously, as I've said, huge debate is raging as to whether Black Panther deserves its spot on the Best Picture list. Keyboard warriors certainly haven't been happy about it. But also recently, the author of American Psycho, not the director of the film, the author, came out saying that no one in Hollywood thinks it's actually a particularly good movie, but they're supporting it on the basis of diversity.
I think that's more condemning than anything. Is a sort of, especially in the like I say, obviously we haven't seen If Beale Street Can Talk, but in the absence of that, it seems odd to have nominated Black Panther.
I'm in kind of two minds about the Black Panther.
I mean, on the one, I just want to say on the one hand, the response that Black Panther got when it came out was quite incredible, and it's wonderful that it did get that response.
Well, it was really great. Yeah, I think we'll talk about. I think what we both have a problem with is more the technical execution of the film and like the storytelling. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I mean, I'm cynical in the terms for its creation. I remember talking to a friend before it came out, and she was very much like, it's great that, we're getting this film, this, black superhero film that's going to be a mega blockbuster. And I was kind of the mind of, Marvel is this vast depository of characters, and it's, rather than it being someone saying, I really want to make a Black Panther film, coming out of someone's mind to make this film, it was more of a case of how long is it until Black Panther is made into a film. Yeah. So I think there was always that air of cynicism to it, and that goes for any superhero. I think it's the same with Ant-Man and whatever other shit they're coming up with. I like superhero films, guys. But there was always that air of cynicism to it. I think the final result has obviously been incredibly well received in terms of popular culture, but in terms of its genesis, I didn't think it was like a tremendous sort of creative breakthrough.
Okay, yeah.
Which I think contributes to my sort of questioning of it being nominated as a Best Picture.
Yeah.
It feels less of like a creative breakthrough and more like another installment, which makes it seem odd as like a Best Picture nomination.
Do you think it's fair to say that one of the perhaps the most remarkable thing about it is what the audience have brought to it and what they like, how they have, I don't know, their own stories and their own experiences that they brought to it?
Kind of. It's kind of like what I brought up with Bohemian Rhapsody and Greatest Showman. It's one of those films that liberates people, whatever the film may stand for creatively or anything. It is a film that sort of liberates people and gives them a point of reflection that is inspiring and exciting, as a superhero film should be, as all superhero films should be. Sorry, DC EU. But yeah, that's probably the most impactful thing about it. Is like how it has affected people in terms of like a inspirational, sort of culturally invigorating kind of way.
Yeah, and the hype is real in that sense. Like
apparently I read that 37% of Black Panther's total cinema-going audience in America was African American, which is way higher than the average blockbuster, and way higher than sort of the total population. And there was also a huge number of women that went to see Black Panther according to audience figures, which was higher than I think most other MCU films. And you know, just from the people I talked to...
I mean, have you seen Chadwick Boseman? He's pretty fit. That's not going.
Apologise. Apologise. But yeah, the also in like kind of conversations, people who have like really expressed their like dislike of kind of comic book films or just their disinterest in comic book films,
looking shifty right now,
have gone to see it.
Yeah.
And sort of got something out of it and enjoyed it.
Probably because it's one of the few, as much as I say it was sort of made under a sort of as part of a cynical machine, it is ultimately about something. It's a strange reversal of cultural appropriation, I think.
Yeah.
Which was quite startling to see in a Marvel film, and you know, refreshing to see in a Marvel film, because there are plenty like Doctor Strange, which I remember going to see and thinking this could be something very creative and could say a lot about spirituality or how we interact with that sort of side of things.
Yeah.
And how, you know, our own spiritual experiences, and it turns out to be just another action film with some flashy Inception style visuals.
Yeah.
This was definitely one of the better Marvel films in that respect. I would certainly say of the cinematic universe of the moment, it was probably my favourite alongside the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you're the same, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was, if not awe-inspiring, it was impressive and enjoyable.
I think my crucial problem with the film, though, is that I think it's a film that I think fundamentally tries to kind of wants to have its cake and eat it as well. In that, like, what you're saying is true, that there is a thematic bedrock to it, about kind of, you know, about culture, and there's basically the villain, played by Michael B. Jordan, Killmonger, comes in actually quite late in the film.
Yeah.
And
isn't he absent for
he
hour
is.
or so?
He is. But he basically brings a very interesting debate to the table, which is this idea that Wakanda has all these resources and this kind of wonderful culture and wonderful community which is really thriving, and he argues that needs to be shared with the world, and that there are basically black people across the globe who have historically been oppressed time and again. And yet there's been this society hiding away that hasn't been willing to step in and sort this out. And Black Panther's like, I'm not going to put my people in danger, to be judge, jury, and executioner on the rest of the world. And I was waiting for the kind of Dark Knight interrogation room scene where characters
Avengers interrogation scene. They did it in Avengers, if you remember. Loki in a chamber.
Same extent.
Thing. Well, yeah, it's not exactly. Yeah, it's just one of many knockoffs.
A film where it just stops and really kind of lets this sit with the audience and lets it play out. But I think even though all that interesting stuff is there, I don't think the film is fundamentally interested in that. I think it's still that action film, and it's still got to be sorted out through fighting, and it doesn't have, in that sense, it isn't as subversive as I think some people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I don't necessarily, like I say, I went in sort of in a cynical mood, so I don't see it as like trying to sort of reach that level, so I don't really have a problem with it in that regard. Like, I was expecting the conventional Marvel action film, so for me, the themes embellish it. But I can imagine, like, if people are saying this is like a masterpiece of sort of...
Well, that's the thing, people are starting to kind of... I think it's a film that very soon you'll start seeing academic essays about it, people really exploring...
Oh yeah, which is fine if people...
Oh, exactly. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think if you look at it on
as a piece, it's kind of... Yeah, it inhabits a middle ground.
Yes.
It's not necessarily pushing the envelope either way.
But like
or maybe for like
I think it still sits in that slightly studio ground. Like it's still very recognisably part of the MCU. It doesn't have... There are moments, but it doesn't have that sort of a turf flourish that again some people are saying it has.
Unfortunately, I think we're just past... Well, I say that, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse feels very distinct.
I think Logan, to an extent, did as well. James Mangold really put a stamp on that. There was a really weird sort of like jazzy score almost during the action sequences, like kind of clashing piano notes, and it all felt very...
it felt like a very isolated piece, which is what I miss about comic book movies. But I think it still works as like a blockbuster. Certainly, it's like a not high end, but sort of like, well, for this year maybe, looking at the list.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think we've talked mainly about like the context and the criticism. I think on a positive note, there are certainly some great things about it. I think I do think the soundtrack, which is nominated, is really good. I think the cast are really sort of fun, and everyone seems to have their place. I think the production design, the costume design is really, really good.
A lot of the dialogue felt a lot more understated than the rest of the MCU. So,
and I remember laughing when you were supposed to laugh, and just like it is a very, very solid, enjoyable film. So it's kind of interesting that like in being nominated for Best Picture, it's sort of simultaneously been really overrated and really unfairly ridiculed. Yeah.
Well, I think it's one of the ones that you do not expect to see on an awards list. So, Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody, for everything we've said about them, they are the safe bets for Oscar season. They have been manufactured for this season, whereas Black Panther is the stranger of the pack. So, it's going to draw criticism and praise. And as people get more fired up about it, they're going to get more, divisive about it. So, that's what's happening there. Not to explain it too.
And that's Black Panther.
Yeah, there you go.
Shall we move on to third place? Top three. We're getting into films we like now. That's fun. So number 3, I think we expected this as well, is Black Klansman.
Right, answer me a question. Is Adam Driver nominated for Best Supporting Actor?
Yes, he is.
Good.
Good stuff, yeah. So, just a brief introduction. Directed by Spike Lee, based on the novel by Ron Stallworth, that's the man that actually infiltrated the KKK back in the 1970s. So he wrote the novel on it. It was Jordan Peele, the director of Get Out and the upcoming Us, which I can't wait for.
Yeah,
Have you seen the
that's one
trailer
of
for
the.
that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm just so excited. I'm so glad
It's one of the hits
he
of
exists.
2019.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep myself like grounded. But yeah, Jordan Peele initially contacted Spike Lee with just 6 words. Apparently, black man infiltrates Ku Klux Klan, and I think Spike Lee was immediately interested. It was awarded the Grand Prix at the Cannes Film Festival, yeah, basically I think that's all the introduction it needs. Like, so yeah.
Who was the primary actor? Denzel Washington's son.
John David Washington.
John David
I believe.
Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was also quite good.
He was also good.
He again had that understated quality to him. That
Yeah.
I liked. Yeah, I remember quite enjoying it. I wouldn't say that it was a knockout film of the year. Like I said before, there were very few of this year. So, but it was. I mean, it did everything that Green Book failed to do. Basically, it was. Yeah, it meant something, and it felt powerful in some of its
And
scenes.
it felt complex
Yes,
as
well. Yeah. It had characters who had clearly a lot of things going on, a lot of things on their plate, and it wasn't fearful. I mean, Spike Lee, he's not going to shy away from tackling a lot of these issues, and so it did everything that it needed to do.
Yeah.
I think it was a very straightforward story, which was both a benefit and a drawback. I don't know if it completely, subverted my expectations in terms of its plot. But that's not to say that it didn't have an effect upon me, if that makes sense. It was emotionally engaging. It had me, engaged. It's just maybe, plot-wise, it wasn't sort of the most complicated or sort of fascinating sort of film.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I guess a good way to start the conversation, actually, because I think it gets to sort of the heart of the film, really. What did you think of the very ending?
The very end
kind
of
of
the
spoilers. Should we give spoilers? Or?
Well, we can edit around the spoilers.
Okay. Death spoilers. Black Klansman spoilers.
The bombing.
Yeah. Well, no. The radical, very last few minutes.
Yes. Yeah. The ending I thought was powerful. It erred on the side of being blatant, but it was powerful, and it felt like it fit the story well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was effective. It was maybe one of the more powerful parts of the film in how it sort of ended it on not a sour note, but a
urgent, definitely.
Yeah, urgent and sort of this sort of dark warning. So yeah, I think that was an effective ending. But again, it wasn't necessarily like Vice in how it handled its sort of cultural relevancy, but sort of current relevancy. But
although I think my main issue with the film is the same as you. I think one of the things you raised earlier with Vice, in that, disincluding those last couple of minutes, I thought the film was too blatant about the connection between what was happening then and what's happening now.
Right.
And it took me out of the film, because the rest of the film, there was very, very subtle, felt detailed character work going on.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I was taken out by some really quite blatant references to what is happening now.
Right. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it.
There's one particular moment I remember, I can't quote it exactly, but when they referred to Topher Grace's character, David Duke, and say like, a man like that's never going to get into the White House or something like that.
I do remember that.
And I remember moments like that. Maybe, again, I'd need to see it again, but there are moments like that I felt fairly consistently, which took me out of it slightly.
Right.
I'm going to actually, because I actually overwhelmingly quite liked the film, so I'll start with
That, and the only other issue is I think that other than the main character, I think some character drawing and character development wasn't that great.
Yeah, I mean, some of the antagonists felt very. I remember there was a couple of sort of quite caricature.
I think the guy I've got his
the guy
his
with
name.
it's like scrawnier Michael.
Yeah, Felix Kendrickson, I think was the name of the character. He's the most reckless sort of clan member. He feels a bit of a stereotype, and it feels a bit kind of
underwritten, not justified, sort of thing.
Yeah,
I know it's difficult to justify.
Although I thought his wife was a great character.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of content there.
There was something very sad and real about her. I want to talk briefly actually about Adam Driver, because you asked immediately whether he was nominated for supporting actor, and I think it's a very, very deserved nomination, considering that I don't think his character is actually that well written. I don't think there's. I don't think
it's very much in the nuances of his performance. He
brings an awful lot to it as far as what you can see on screen, because his motivations and why he's really doing what he's doing isn't ever made that clear.
On paper, he's very much a supporting character. And yet Adam Driver kind of brings him to the foreground and makes him much more engaging.
Exactly. And the lie detector scene, which I think we talked about, his performance is just fantastic.
And the climax of that is just fantastic.
Yeah, and there's something so satisfying about watching sort of actors having a power play, and you can see the tipping scale, the balance throughout that scene. And as soon as slight spoiler, as soon as that situation the tension is taken away, he runs outside, watches the main character John David Washington driving away, like chucks a rock at it, and then like screams some racial slur, and then
I thought he shot at him.
Of course he shoots at him, and then just kind of like really angrily like shoves the gun back on the sort of the reckless clan member, and says like, you still think I need a lie detector test, and it's such a satisfying moment of a character taking power back, and it's just completely what seems
it's also
that should be.
That doesn't conclude their relationship. It's like, even though it's this massive explosion of tension, it leaves it on that slight note of like, it's still risen to this level, but it can rise higher.
Exactly.
Which is what's so effective about it.
Yeah, his performance is just superb.
I thought he was the highlight. I think what was one of the interesting things, which I forgot to mention, was I don't know if you agree, that this was kind of marketed in some ways as like a black comedy. Like,
yes.
There were I vaguely remember seeing trailers before it came out where it was like, what a kooky situation.
Wacky!
A black guy posing as a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And then I saw it, and very little of it is actually funny. I know some people have found it.
Oh, I did find it funny.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I think the main character does what he does with a good sort of sense of humour.
Like a jovial
and he finds
quality.
a joy, and again he gets a power from well-deserved power from his manipulating strategies.
I think that's what makes it interesting, is because it is so focused on the play between these two parties. It's whatever party you recognise the most. So for me, I was recognising the antagonists and sort of thinking, oh my god, these people are for real, which was why it wasn't funny to me. It was like, he is goading them, but their responses are so genuine
and sinister.
And thinking, my god, this is real. Not like, the guy who draws a knife in the bar in Green Book and gets scared away by the gun. There's such a sincerity to that it scared me more than anything.
Okay.
So that's why.
But in a way, that's kind of arguably a compliment of the film.
Oh yeah. No, that's what I mean. Don't get me wrong. That's what's great about it, is that you can take it either way. There's the oh my god, this is so ridiculous, or these people are so ridiculous side. With it's either you feel fear and that need to sort of quench this evil, or you feel pity and sort of a need to deny this madness, if that makes sense. In either way, You can feel any range of emotions from this, from whichever side of it you focus upon.
Absolutely.
Go back to the main issue.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know what you thought of him. I think I want to give a shout out to Topher Grace as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Excellent bit of casting, and he's really good in it. And yeah, again, he felt quite real as well. He didn't feel like a stereotype.
There's kind of a heroism in his performance that makes him frightening in a very minimalistic way.
It's kind of, you can kind of see how he's been able to kind of have influence in such a terrible circuit, because he's very polite and measured.
That's the thing, he's not
friendly to who he wants to be friendly to.
He's not devious, he's just very eloquent in terms of his beliefs, even though they are very, very misguided. But makes me want to watch it.
It's a film I have a sneaky feeling I'll like more of a second time, because I think there's a lot which is kind of overwhelming about it. Again, I think it's a film that aims very high, and there are moments where I was just like, I was kind of drawn between wanting to follow, like you said, the fairly simple storyline, and then trying to navigate all the sort of subtext or very obvious subtext it was throwing at you, and I think I found that just quite an off-putting experience. But maybe watching it again, being more prepared for stuff, because I remember one of my problems as well was I can't remember the actress's name, but the university student that John David Washington starts a relationship with. She's in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but yeah, I remember thinking her performance was really good, but I thought she felt like a very neat sort of parallel to like the modern idea of the social justice warrior, and it all just felt a bit too kind of neat and a bit too recognise this for me, but I don't know if that's fair, and I don't know if that's me just bringing something.
I thought that was interesting where because it felt like something, you would assume that Spike Lee might champion that sort of thing because it is progressive, and yet it's kind of used in a way to like undermine.
Oh no, absolutely, it is like it's done in a measured way, which is so it's not annoying.
There's intelligence.
It's more. I only say that in a way that like, again, it takes you out from the immediate tension and the immediate story of the film, because I don't think the parallels to the modern day are subtle. But I think maybe if you watch it, maybe if I were to watch it again, accepting that they're there and that that's part of the film's DNA, basically, maybe I'll enjoy it more.
Yeah, I don't think I had as much a problem with her, but I see what you mean with some of the other points.
Yeah. Okay.
Next picture.
Number 2. Oh,
we're getting into good territory now.
No, we really like it. We have a joint first. So I assume we have... so I think, let's just say, so what was your favourite?
My favourite was not the favourite.
Oh my god.
But it was... Oh my god, what was it? Oh, Roma! Which I watched today, so I have no excuse to forget.
My favourite was the favourite.
It was everyone's favourite.
Which should we discuss? I think Roma's most people's favourite, but we'll...
Do you think so?
I think Roma's the favourite to win.
Okay.
The favourite's not the favourite to win.
I think the favourite is the popular favourite.
Okay.
Maybe, from what I've gathered, but
favourite. We've said that a lot.
Both great films.
Yes. Although I know you were slightly less keen on the favourite.
Less keen, but that wasn't necessarily down to the film itself. I think that was down to my own kind of sensibilities, because my biggest problem with it was, I mean, I saw most of The Lobster. Unfortunately, I left the cinema because of something that happened in there. I won't say I walked out, because it wasn't purely down to my lack of enjoyment, but there was something that happened in the cinema that meant I had to leave. But the sense of humour in that film didn't gel with me too much, and whilst I found the favourite funnier, I still didn't completely get on board with its humour, because I thought that it kind of obviously it paints quite a ridiculous version of, I mean, I don't know if you've got a summary of the plot. You haven't done your little summary.
Oh no.
We're going out of order now. So yeah, give us a summary of The Favourite.
Okay, so yeah, The Favourite, once again, is my favourite film. For my money, The Favourite and Roma are the only two great films nominated for Best Picture this
as
year.
contrasted to last year where there were only 2 Duff films. This year we
yeah,
have
I
only
think there
2
were
great
6,
films.
maybe even 7 last year, but this year it's Roma and The Favourite. So we'll start with The Favourite. Again, not too many facts here. Directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, written by Deborah Davis and Tony McNamara. It's a normal name. I'm just. So yeah, it tells the story of Queen Anne and the rivalry for her affections between Sarah Churchill, played by Rachel Weisz, and Abigail Hill, Sarah's impoverished cousin, played by Emma Stone. This all takes place against the backdrop of the war between Britain and France in the early 1700s. So yeah, just in terms of what were you saying about The Favourite?
My main issue was maybe it was a big issue, but probably one of my few issues with it was that a lot of the comedy in the film comes out of the ridiculous atmosphere. These sort of the royalty coming out with whichever slurs and expletives they like. It's very much an air of turning royalty on its head and really exposing this sort of animalistic, bizarrely sort of sexualized view of the monarchy, of like that atmosphere. And I think the problem was that because the whole world of the film was portrayed that way, there wasn't that comedy of contrast. There wasn't that, the ridicule for me didn't work because there wasn't a point of origin to compare it to. There wasn't. You couldn't say these people are acting ridiculous because in that world it was normal. There's no sort of, in our world, normality in there to sort of contrast it against and to really get that real sense of humour from it.
Yeah.
But saying that, I did still find it funny and entertaining, but it was more on the sort of character level, the little moments made me laugh. I think there's 3 great performances in this. I think Olivia Colman is maybe the strongest, even though all 3 of the principal performers are absolutely fantastic. Particularly, I love the scenes between Emma Stone's character and Rachel Weisz
when they're shooting.
Yeah, those scenes where they're just getting at each other's throats in a very sort of subtle way. That had me smiling because it was just these 2 people, tussling under the surface. And the film itself looked great, and I did like how off-putting the film looked, in terms of the use of fisheye. So a lot of the tracking shots, there's very much an intention to make this. I think a lot of it was filmed in Hatfield House. A lot of to make that environment look like the inside of someone's head, like this bizarre sort of dreamlike, environment. And everything that's happening. I think it's a film that will improve for me on future rewatches, because I think I went to see it, liked it enough, gave it. I think I gave it like a 6 out of 10. In retrospect, I feel like I want to give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
I feel like if I watched it again, I'd probably give it even higher.
Yeah.
But yeah, really fantastic. Generally, well, I suppose that goes against my rating. I thought it was, great. My biggest problem was the comedy didn't quite sit with me.
Okay.
But I can appreciate the film for what it is, and it really is something to be championed.
Okay. Yeah.
But you really loved it.
Yeah, I feel.
It's your favourite.
I'm going to demonstrate now that I do, in fact, love films. I thought The Favourite was absolutely wonderful. I just thought it was great. I watched it. That experience you had of smiling during the shooting scenes, I had all the way through. And I was worried that it was going to dip. Just when it looked like it was slightly going to dip towards the very end, I thought the ending brought it all together, and it had a proper ending, a proper conclusion, which was demonstrated sort of in a visually interesting way. I feel like it's been said time and time again. They're probably my 3 favourite three of my favourite actresses. One of my three favourite actresses, three favourite actors, full stop. Like, just giving the most wonderful performances. I want to address that because I think it's hard because comedy and the way how much you laugh at a comedy film obviously is incredibly subjective.
Yeah.
I think the reason I laughed all the way through is because I think the comedy comes from something so much more complex and detailed than just comedy of contrasts. And I think the comedy derives from the fact that the characters are set up very, very vividly, and it's established early on, and continues to be established throughout, that they all know what makes each other tick, and knows how they can.
They're pressing each other's buttons.
Press each other's buttons. How they can beat each other. How they can overcome each other. How they can form alliances with each other. And it's just we were talking about the power play scene in Black Klansman. Favourite is 2 hours of that, and it's these characters trying new things, realizing that they have to change their tactics,
change their personalities.
Yeah, exactly. To get what they want and get what they. And there's even a question of whether they think this is right or whether it's all entirely selfish. And it's just a joy to watch. And that's all reflected in the cinematography and the visual style. The camera moves in a way which simultaneously sort of makes sense and doesn't make sense with what's happening with the characters. One of my favourite scenes is the dance hall scene where they Rachel Weisz and the guy do like a weird like modern dance, but not too modern that it's actually like they don't like twerk or anything. It's just like something that
doesn't fit into that environment.
And there's another lovely little moment as well where like a very, very modern detail is added in where Emma Stone's flirting with that same male character at the beginning, and I think she says something cheeky and he says, I could have you stripped and whipped for that. And then she says, oh well, I'll be waiting. And then she walks away from him and the camera shows her pull like a kind of very modern face that you'd probably see in like a modern high school comedy.
I think it was stuff like that made me laugh the most. Was like little like understated details.
But I found so much of that was about that. In terms of the kind of general tone of the film, I don't know, because I showed you this film. How much did it remind you of The Devils by Ken Russell in terms of the way it added this kind of mad sort of immoral atmosphere to a period
to
film?
Some extent. I think they are very different in terms of how they, like The Devils is kind of much more of like a runaway train ride into madness and sort of psychotic just doom. Whereas this felt much more playful in a demented way. So I get what you mean. It's an interesting comparison to make, that same subversion of that environment, of that setting. But
I think it's more in the sort of modern inflections on a period film. I agree completely with the contrasts you drew between them. I think should we just talk, because it's been a bit of a theme of the podcast, about this idea of historical inaccuracies, and Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody has come under fire for them. I feel like The Favourite has less, because it's a good film.
It never claims to be an accurate retelling. I mean, I don't really know much of that side of history at all, but I certainly know that this is a fantastical take on this window, or however many of these characters were real, or however much of this actually happened. It almost wasn't a concern of mine, because it's such a sort of I don't want to say dreamlike, because it's a bit cliched, but that kind of style, that it didn't feel like I'm sort of questioning, did this happen? I think I only really question historical accuracy when it feels like the sort of the feelings, or if someone is being represented correctly. If the mission statement is clearly to represent this person, and if so, are they being represented correctly? Whereas with The Favourite, it clearly wasn't about representing. It was clearly about entering this environment and creating a brand new sort of story or a brand new sort of feeling that wouldn't usually be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's stylistically completely different from Green Book or Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't really have much to say about it. I genuinely, I really loved every moment of it. That's not to say it's perfect. I don't think any film really is, but I just think I was so impressed with the fact that it felt so meticulously constructed and yet so anarchic at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just loved watching those actors play off each other.
Yeah.
And there was pathos in there. That it wasn't. I felt like it changed tone not changed tone. It slowed down at certain stages. There was a bit where like Abigail and Anne connected over like the rabbits when Anne revealed that she'd lost a number of children at childbirth.
Oh yeah, you definitely
And
get
that
into
moment was
the
played out beautifully and slowly, and it was a film with
these are tragic characters.
Yeah.
You get into their what has driven them to this point. It's a film that's very considerate of its characters. That's kind of what I mean is it's clearly got, even if these characters are fictionalized or whatever, it clearly cares a lot about them, about what affects them.
Exactly.
In a very sort of subtle sense.
And it's also a film that demonstrates that films that tackle historical issues don't have to be tied down to the boring rules and boring logic that existed back then. Like these characters, these female characters that are in control of what's happening, and whatever happened back then.
Probably my favourite costume drama.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan
God.
of them, but probably my favourite.
Yeah. Favourite.
Getaphazorus!
Yeah. To summarise the film, Joe's favourite.
There you go. We're headed to a different region of the world for our other favourite.
Which
Roma.
is Roma. So this is specifically Oliver's favourite, my second favourite. I do think it's a great film, but I think... I don't know.
I think, for me, part of what makes it my favourite is that it was a massive breath of fresh air compared to everything else running. In a way, compared to even the favourite, because Roma is very much I don't know if you want to summarise it first. Have you got your...
Should I just give it a brief?
So
written, directed and co-produced by Alfonso Cuarón, described as a semi-autobiographical take on Cuarón's time growing up in the district of Colonia Roma in Mexico City, set in the 1970s, stars, my pronunciation, Yelitsa Aparicio and Marina de Tavira both received acting nominations, which I was really happy about. Yeah.
Because they were great.
First Best Picture nominee to be released straight to Netflix. It is also the film with the most nominations for a film not in the English language, tying only with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. For me, it currently appears to be the front runner awards-wise. Certainly, Alfonso Cuarón is the front runner, having picked up a trophy at the Directors Guild Awards and the Golden Globes. Although this year, that's not saying much.
That's true. The Golden Globes is another podcast entirely.
Yeah, I just realised because Green Book won Best Comedy, so the winners for the best films were Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book.
Ooh.
Imagine a year where they're the two best films. The fucking end of the world as we know it.
It's almost like we shouldn't give any credit to award ceremonies.
I know, I worry. Talk about Roma.
Very, very, very naturalistic, which is why it was such a breath of fresh air. I loved how the characters in this spoke like real human beings. It didn't feel like a script, which is what was so wonderful about it. That's what I mean by I really loved The Favourite, but you can't pretend that doesn't feel like a piece.
Oh no, it's very much.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah,
it's a meticulously crafted piece. Whereas Roma feels like a snapshot of a time, which is obviously intended to be. And in terms of how it's shot as well, it's just those wide... I was speaking earlier about...
Gorgeous,
I was in Vienna the other week, and I would keep looking at things and thinking, oh... And Roma had the same reaction. I would cut to another shot and I'd go, oh...
It's the cliche saying that I think every frame of painting applies to it. There's
Yeah.
so much detail in every single shot.
So gorgeous. I love the way this film looks. And I mean, those are the two major strengths for me. It just how understated and thus emotional it was, because it was so relatable for being so realistic. If that makes sense. The highs are so high and the lows are really, really affecting. There were moments where I would be sitting there thinking, this is just so wonderful and uplifting, seeing this maid interacting with the children who she lives with and how she's sort of guiding them slightly, you know, having these minimal, and you know, it's that classic thing of thinking, you know, when they grow up, how many of her words are they going to take on board? You know, I love that bit where they're lying on the roof together and, you know, one of the boys pretending to be dead. And she says, no, I'm better. I like being dead.
There's nothing sort of obviously powerful or influential about her. It's all done in little moments, and you can imagine how these characters will grow after these snapshots. And
equally the lows are so distressing and sort of
there's a scene in it which is devastating.
Oh my god, I think I know the one that you're talking about, where it's just kind of drawn out to show the whole thing that happens, and it's just I was sitting there feeling awful. Which is, you know, again, testament to the film that it can go between these two extremes. It really does feel like I said before, like a snapshot. I don't think that's doing it justice. It feels more like a tapestry of this place in time, this character. It's not even, I feel like this character, the maid, is more well realised. We find out more about her life than we find out anything about Dick Cheney and Vice.
Oh god,
you know? and it's only,
I don't know anything about Dick Cheney.
And it's a matter of, and you know, Roma covers a matter of a few weeks, if that. Sorry, several months, isn't it? Because the doctor goes away for a number of months.
Yes.
But it's still, you know, it covers absolutely everything that it needs to, and it draws as much emotion as possible from what it has.
Yeah.
And yet there isn't that much there. It's very minimalistic, and thus very naturalistic. And like I said, massive breath of fresh air. Might be my favourite film of the year. Like Joe said, I watched this earlier today, in time for this recording.
Also, you've had to. I think we decided on this quite recently, and you've watched the other nominees all in quite fairly quick succession, haven't you? Well, you've watched Green Book and Vice very recently.
Yes,
and that must have been.
That was very disheartening. I was holding out for Roma. I wasn't expecting a masterpiece. I hesitate to call anything a masterpiece, but I was holding out a little bit, but I'm very pleasantly happy to say it really lives up to what it sets out to be. I think if, as a disclaimer coming up, it is a very slow film. If you aren't into something that is more drawn out and more sort of nuanced in a way it sort of goes about its scenes and its characters, then maybe it's not the film for you. But I do think it's a great pick for Best Picture.
Yes, I think it's I think I got that from it as well. I think it's a film that you really, really have to give something to it. Like, you have to let yourself immerse yourself into the world.
Immerse yourself. Well, I remember Avatar was like that, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Where the
I felt like I was there. There was a bit where one of the blue people's hands came out, and I was just like, oh my god, I was there. But no, Roma, I think you've just got to be like sort of patient with it, and then allow it to throw its rewards over you, because it really does looks amazing, and the world is so vividly realised, and there's just some really stunning shots as well. There's a shot at the end towards the end on a beach, which is just
makes you want to pick up a camera and go out there.
And like you said, I think the character moments are really. I'm really glad that Marina de Tavira was nominated.
Is she lead actress?
No, she's the... Because I figured the lead actress would be, but she plays the mother, and I think there were some really good moments.
Yeah.
The moment that kind of... I actually got officially really into it was the moment where the dad is driving off at the beginning, and then she, like, grabs him and really, like...
Yeah.
passionately kisses him, and he just doesn't reciprocate, and it's a really, like, desperate, tragic moment.
Yeah.
And the film doesn't... Again, it sort of does the opposite of what The Favourite does, in that, like, the camera really makes sure in The Favourite that it captures all these little moments and all these little things. And whereas Roma, it really feels like
it before you, but in a very sort of wide and
it happens to capture these moments, and it's
the camera happens to be there.
two completely different techniques, but work in equally effective ways.
Oh yeah.
And so do you have anything more to say about
You have no excuse not to watch it because it's on Netflix.
Exactly.
Like I say,
that's
previous.
It feels a weird film to be the only one that's released on Netflix, because it feels like such a film you'd watch in the cinema.
Well,
what do you think of that?
That's what Netflix is going for now. You know, they're going for quality. We had the Holmes and Watson debacle earlier this year, where Sony saw how bad Holmes and Watson was, so they attempted to dump it on Netflix, and Netflix refused because it was that bad. So Netflix are clearly doing a good job of maintaining their portfolio. It's very interesting.
Some really good quality stuff.
Yeah, and this sort of tops it's the icing on the cake. So I expect we'll be seeing more nominations from them. But yeah,
definitely,
it shows by all means that anything on Netflix can be of the same standard or better than what's in cinemas at the moment, which is both reassuring and cautionary.
Yeah, it could go any way.
Yeah.
So before I ask for the final predictions, we'll just do a quick summary. So in terms of our ranking of the Best Picture nominations, this is the order with which, you should care about seeing them. In 8th place, Bohemian Rhapsody, which is streamlined nonsense. 7th place is Vice.
Is that going on the poster? Sorry, for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Streamlined nonsense. No, just do the Freddie voice.
Seventh place. I've come up with this new song.
What is it, Freddie?
It's called Streamlined Nonsense.
What song is that, Freddie? You're going too fast.
I don't have any time. I've got rage, I'm afraid.
There's only one room in this band for one hysterical queen. I've written a song, it's called We. 7th place, Vice.
Green Book.
7th
You
place,
fool.
Green Book. Oh no! Okay. 7th
You're
place.
making allowances.
Okay. In 8th place, Bohemian Rhapsody. 7th place, Green Book. 6th place, Vice. 5th place, A Star Is Born. 4th place, Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Black Panther. 3rd place, Black Klansman.
Clearly you need to be in charge of the list.
Yeah, this needs to be edited. 2nd place... No. Joint...
What the fuck are you doing? Okay, we're third. Joint first place, Roma and The Favourite. Both favourites, but there they are.
Thank you, Oliver. So,
please comment on your favourite films of the year, and we will make sure that we won't read any of those comments. But who knows?
Just before we go, what's your prediction? What do you reckon will win Best Pick? I think it's clear what you think should win Best Pick.
Should we do optimistic and nihilistic predictions?
Yes. So,
I think optimistically Roma will win. I think nihilistically... I think maybe A Star Is Born.
I don't think that will win.
No? You think that it's worn off?
I think Bradley Cooper not being nominated for Best Director and Star Is Born not being up for Best Editing is a really, really bad sign.
Right.
Those are the two things. Like, you always look at director, screenplay, and editing to determine sort of Best Picture.
I think it's more me being like, surely this isn't the universe where Green Book or Bohemian Rhapsody win.
Yeah,
our universe is
I
pretty
think
good
it's
as
more
it's
likely
going
to be one of them than A
Well,
Star
I
Is
mean, like you
Born.
say, Golden Globes are pretty
Exactly.
good.
The Golden Globes, they do follow the Golden Globes a worrying amount. I think realistically, Roma will win. I do think it will. I know not many people have seen it, even though it's on Netflix, but I think that is the front runner. I personally would like the favourite to win.
Because I mean, the favourite would be a great
I just
winner.
think the favourite is wonderful. And also, I think that would be a very, very fun and interesting film to win. I don't think there's been a film like that. But I think either the favourite and Roma, as long as they're leading the pack with the most nominations, one of them ought to win. I'd be happy with either. I'm terrified by the prospect of Bohemian Rhapsody winning. Could happen. People like it. Look at yourselves.
You know who you are.
I should just let it wash over me.
You've probably just lost
Bollocks.
half our listening fan base. Before we've even done any recordings, we've just gone and screwed over half the population.
No, you can like it if you want.
Just don't expect any respect from us. I feel bad for you, really.
Come on, Joe, it's not really that bad a film, is it?
Well, I would have you in my new song. It's called Joseph is a Loser.
Seems like another critic doesn't like our film. You could say another one bites the dust! Cuts to them on stage. Everything's fine.
This film is Queen.
And on that note,
on that bombshell.
thank you so much for listening if you have made it this far.
Yeah. If you've wasted 3 hours of your life tonight, then good on you. Tonight or today or whenever you're listening to this. And we hope that we hear you, or that you hear us, when you tune in next time.
Okay.
Maybe it might be different people.
And here's to a better lineup of films next year.
See you in a year's time.
We want Ladybirds and Get Outs.
Yes, we
back.
do. Well, hopefully we will. We got Jordan Peele returning. We got David
Everyone
Mitchell.
go and see us.
Yeah.
Please. Okay, thank you everybody.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.